Have you ever been at a party or in a meeting or even with close friends and felt this quiet tug? A feeling that doesn't come from sadness, but from a sense of depth. It's the feeling that the most real conversation you need to have isn't with anyone in the room, but with yourself. That pull you feel? It's not about being antisocial or lonely. It's something much deeper. The famous psychologist Carl Jung believed this isn't a curse, it's a calling. It's a sign you're being chosen, not by some outside force, but by your own deepest self, to embark on the most important expedition you'll ever undertake, the journey to discover who you truly are. And on that journey, you will often find yourself walking alone. Today, we're going to explore why that solitude isn't something to fear, but is actually a necessary part of becoming whole. So let's get one thing straight right away. When we use the word chosen, it's not about putting anyone on a pedestal. This isn't about being part of an elite club or thinking you're better than anyone else. In fact, that kind of ego is the exact opposite of what this is about. Think of it less like being selected for a prize and more like hearing a faint, persistent call from somewhere deep within you. It's your own psyche summoning you. It's that quiet, undeniable voice that suggests the person you're presenting to the world might not be the entire story of who you are, and that there's a more authentic version of you waiting to be discovered. This isn't about comparison. It's about answering a very personal invitation to embark on the most significant journey you can take. This journey has a name in Jung's world: individuation. Now, that might sound like a complex academic term, but its meaning is profoundly human. Simply put, it's the lifelong process of pulling together all the different, often conflicting, parts of yourself into a cohesive whole. We all have a conscious self, the part we know, the thoughts we think, the identity we've crafted. But beneath that is a vast ocean of the unconscious, forgotten memories, instincts, potential we've ignored, and parts of our personality we've hidden away because they didn't fit the mold. Individuation is the work of bringing those hidden parts into the light, not to eliminate them, but to understand them, integrate them, and ultimately, to become complete. It's about moving from who you were told to be, or who you think you should be, toward who you are truly meant to be. It's the process of becoming an individual in the truest sense of the word, fully unique, fully self-aware, and fully actualized. This call to embark on this path rarely comes when everything in life is sunny and calm. For most men, it emerges from a place of quiet crisis. It's that profound feeling of dissatisfaction that creeps in after you've achieved the goals you were supposed to achieve. It's the feeling of being lost even when you're standing in your own home, or a sense of emptiness that follows you even in a crowd. It can feel like a depression that isn't just about sadness, but about a deep disconnection from meaning. Often, it's the crushing weight of the persona, the mask you wear at work, with your family, even with your friends. You start to feel the strain of performing, of upholding an image, and a terrifying question begins to form. If I'm not this mask, then who am I really? The man who hears this unsettling question, who leans into that discomfort instead of running from it, who chooses to seek the answer no matter how difficult the path, that is the man who has chosen himself. He has accepted the call, and in doing so, he becomes chosen. The first and perhaps most profound reason for this solitude is the very nature of the work itself. While the world is busy with its external pursuits, climbing career ladders, chasing trends, and engaging in the daily chatter, the man on this path is turning inwards. His most important work happens in the silent, private theater of his own mind. He is diving into the depths of his own unconscious, a vast and often uncharted territory within himself. This isn't a hobby or a pastime. It's a demanding excavation project where the soil he's digging through is his own psyche. The focus required is so intense, so deeply personal, that it naturally creates a barrier between him and the outside world. You can't genuinely engage in the superficial when you're wrestling with the fundamental questions of your own existence. This internal focus is invisible to others, and trying to explain it often feels futile, so he gradually learns to protect this sacred space by spending more time in his own company, not out of disdain for others, but out of necessity for the work at hand. At the heart of this internal work is the confrontation with what Jung called the shadow. This isn't a spooky monster under the bed, it's the sum of all those parts of ourselves we have been taught to repress, deny, and hide away. It's our raw anger, our irrational fears, our hidden selfishness, our vulnerabilities we see as weaknesses, and the parts of our personality that we were shamed for as children. Facing your shadow is perhaps the most difficult and courageous work a person can do. It's painful because it requires brutal, unflinching honesty. You have to look at the parts of yourself you've spent a lifetime trying to avoid and acknowledge that they are, undeniably, a part of you. This is not work that can be done in a group therapy session or over a beer with friends. It's a solitary reckoning. It's like performing delicate psychic surgery on your own soul. While you can have a support system cheering you on from the waiting room, no one else can pick up the scalpel and do the cutting for you. This deeply personal, often ugly, and emotionally exhausting task demands solitude. It's a pilgrimage into your own darkness that you must walk alone to emerge with a more complete understanding of your own light. This inward journey inevitably creates an outward distance. To truly discover who you are, you must, for a time, separate from the powerful pull of the collective consciousness, the shared set of beliefs, assumptions, norms, and expectations of your society, your culture, even your family and friends. The collective's primary message is to fit in, to follow the well-worn path, to seek validation through external approval and predefined markers of success. But the entire goal of individuation is to stand out, to become your own unique self. This creates a natural and often uncomfortable divergence. His values begin to shift from what he's been told is important to what actually feels important to his authentic self. His goals may no longer align with the relentless pursuit of a bigger house or a more impressive job title. The questions that keep him up at night are no longer about market trends but about meaning, purpose, and truth. This shift makes much of everyday conversation feel superficial and unsatisfying. He isn't rejecting people out of misanthropy, he is simply unable to participate in the same way anymore. This withdrawal is a necessary act of self-preservation. It's the only way to turn down the constant noise of the crowd so he can finally hear the faint, but true, sound of his own inner voice. The ultimate destination of this difficult road is what Jung termed the self, with a capital S. This is the archetype of wholeness, the central nucleus of the psyche that represents the complete, integrated person you are meant to become. When a man begins to connect with this core self, something profound shifts. It becomes his inner compass. His sense of direction, his choices, his moral decisions, and his sense of purpose begin to emanate from this inner center rather than from the opinions and expectations of those around him. This is incredibly empowering. It is the birth of true inner strength and self-reliance. However, it is also inherently isolating. His decisions, guided by this hard-won inner truth, may seem confusing, irrational, or even foolish to others who are still navigating by the map of the collective. He can explain his reasons, but he can never fully transfer the deep, felt understanding that led him to his conclusion. This can be a lonely responsibility. The trade-off, however, is the price of authenticity. He willingly trades the comfort of belonging for the integrity of being truly himself. This is the very essence of walking alone. It is the choice to be guided by your own inner North Star, even when it leads you through unknown and solitary territory, far from the well-trodden and familiar path. It is absolutely essential to understand that the experience of walking this path, while often solitary, is fundamentally different from the aching void of loneliness. We often use these words interchangeably, but in the heart of the man on this journey, they feel worlds apart. Loneliness is a feeling of lack, a hollow sadness that comes from an absence of connection. It is a state of longing for something outside of yourself to come and fill a void within. It's looking out a window at a world of connection you feel excluded from. It is passive, it is painful, and it is marked by a sense that something is missing. The lonely man seeks to escape his own company, to find refuge in the noise and presence of others to quiet the disquiet within himself. His focus is outward, searching for an external solution to an internal emptiness. The solitude sought on the path of individuation, however, is something entirely different. This is not an emptiness, but a fullness. It is not a sentence of isolation, but a chosen state of rich, fertile engagement with oneself. This is the solitude of the artist lost in their studio, the writer immersed in their words, the thinker wrestling with a complex idea. It is active, not passive. It is a condition not of lack, but of profound presence. This kind of solitude is the necessary greenhouse for deep work and genuine creativity. It is the quiet space where the seeds of the self can finally germinate away from the harsh noise of the world. In this space, you are not avoiding others. You are actively attending to the most important relationship you will ever have, the relationship with your own soul. This doesn't mean a life of total hermitage. The man on this path isn't rejecting human connection. In fact, he often craves it more deeply than anyone. But the nature of the connections he seeks undergoes a radical transformation. He is no longer interested in filling his time with superficial chatter or relationships based on convenience or shared distraction. He begins to seek out and value connections with a much higher depth and quality. His relationships become based on a mutual understanding of space and authenticity. He gravitates towards people who do not see his need for solitude as a rejection, but who understand it as a vital part of who he is. These are people who don't seek to constantly fill his silence with noise, but who respect that silence is where his work is done. The connections he forges are therefore fewer, but infinitely more meaningful. They are based not on a desperate need to belong, but on a conscious choice to connect from a place of wholeness, rather than neediness. The solitude he cultivates allows him to come to his relationships not as a half-person looking for completion, but as a whole person looking to share his completeness with another. So, after all this difficult, internal work and the necessary solitude that comes with it, what is actually waiting at the end of this path? What is the reward for having the courage to walk alone? It isn't a trophy or a final destination you arrive at, but rather a fundamental shift in how you experience your entire life. The first and most profound reward is the gift of authenticity. The man who has undertaken this journey no longer feels like he is playing a part written for him by his parents, his culture, or his job. The mask, the persona, begins to dissolve because it is no longer needed. He starts to live a life that is genuinely his own. His choices, from the career he pursues to the way he spends his Sundays, stem from a deep inner knowing of what resonates with his true self, not from a list of external expectations. This brings a sense of congruence and integrity that is incredibly liberating. There is no longer a constant, low-grade anxiety about being found out or not measuring up to some arbitrary standard. He simply is, and that is enough. He becomes the author of his own story, and while the plot may have twists and turns, the protagonist is undeniably, authentically him. This authenticity builds the second great reward, an unshakable foundation. Before this journey, his sense of worth might have been built on shaky ground, on the praise of a boss, the number of likes on a post, the approval of his peers. These external validations are like weather. They are constantly changing and utterly beyond his control. The man who has faced his shadow and integrated his self, however, has done the hard work of laying a new foundation within himself. His sense of worth, his purpose, and his values are now internally generated. This doesn't make him immune to pain or criticism. He is still human, but it makes him profoundly resilient. When external chaos erupts or criticism comes, it might shake the house, but it cannot destroy the foundation. He can weather the storm because his self-worth isn't tied to the storm itself. He knows who he is, even when the world around him seems to forget. This inner stability is a source of immense peace and quiet confidence that nothing in the external world can truly provide. And perhaps the most beautiful and ironic outcome of all is the capacity for genuine connection. It seems counterintuitive that by walking alone, you become better at being with others, but it is profoundly true. The man who seeks wholeness in others from a place of his own emptiness will always be disappointed. His relationships become transactions, desperate attempts to get someone else to complete him. But the man who has done the work to become whole himself approaches connection from a place of fullness, not lack. He no longer needs someone to validate his existence or soothe his insecurities. This allows him to enter into relationships not to take, but to share. He can love freely, without the chains of neediness and dependency. He can appreciate others for who they are, not for what they can do for him. He can engage in true intimacy, which requires two whole people choosing to share their worlds, not two halves trying to fuse into one. The solitary path, therefore, doesn't lead away from love and connection. It leads to the only kind of love and connection that is truly real and sustainable. This path of self-discovery that Carl Jung mapped out is not an easy one. It asks everything of you. It demands a level of honesty and courage that can feel overwhelming, and it is, in every sense, a heroic journey, not because you slay dragons in the outer world, but because you befriend the dragons within your own psyche. It is not a path for everyone, and that is perfectly okay. It is a calling that whispers only to those who are ready to listen, and it requires a bravery that is quiet, persistent, and deeply personal. If you have ever felt that quiet tug, that pull towards solitude that feels less like loneliness and more like a summons, I want to encourage you not to fear it. Do not mistake it for a sentence of isolation. Instead, try to see it for what it truly is, the most profound invitation you will ever receive. It is an invitation to shed the versions of yourself that were never truly yours to begin with. It is an invitation to embark on the one adventure that has the power to transform everything, the journey back to your own essence. The path is solitary for a beautiful and powerful reason. What you are ultimately seeking is already within you, waiting to be discovered. The destination is not some external trophy. It is the unparalleled experience of becoming the most complete, the most powerful, and the most authentically you version of yourself that you can possibly be. This is a conversation, not a lecture. I am genuinely curious to know if any of this resonates with your own experience. Have you felt this pull towards a solitary path? What has that been like for you? Please, share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Let's learn from each other. If this exploration of Jung's ideas struck a chord with you, if it felt like it put words to something you felt but couldn't quite explain, then please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. This is just the beginning. We have so much more to explore together on this journey of self-discovery. And on that note, I'll see you next week, where we will turn inward once again to break down another crucial Jungian concept: the anima and animus, the inner feminine and masculine. Understanding these powerful inner forces is a vital next step in the process of becoming whole. I look forward to continuing this journey with you then.